In the spring of 1796, the continent of Europe faced a massive geopolitical shift. Following the French Revolution and the execution of King Louis XVI, the neighboring monarchies formed the First Coalition. Their strategic objective was clear: to contain France and restore the old regime. French territories were surrounded by hostile forces from the north, the east, and the south. Facing economic collapse and internal instability, the French Republic seemed on the verge of defeat. However, the Directory in Paris made a decision that would alter European geography, appointing a 26-year-old artillery officer named Napoleon Bonaparte to command the Army of Italy. Upon his arrival on the Italian front, Bonaparte faced a critically depleted force. The Army of Italy consisted of 38,000 men who lacked shoes, clothing, and sufficient ammunition. Positioned against them on the other side of the maritime Alps were two well-supplied Allied armies, the Austrians and the Kingdom of Sardinia. Standard military doctrine suggested that a direct assault across the mountainous terrain was impossible. Yet, the young general identified a geographic vulnerability in the coalition's deployment. He decided to use the mountain passes not as a barrier, but as a screen to conceal his movements. In April, the French forces initiated a rapid march through the mountain passes, caught the coalition by surprise, and successfully separated the two Allied armies. Bonaparte executed a classic military maneuver known as the strategy of the central position. By driving his forces directly into the geographic gap between the Sardinians and the Austrians, he prevented them from uniting their strength. Moving with unprecedented speed, the French army struck each isolated force successively. Within just 2 weeks of intense maneuvering, the Kingdom of Sardinia was decisively defeated and forced to sign the Armistice of Cherasco, exiting the war. With Sardinia out of the conflict, the Austrian forces retreated eastward to defend the Lombardy region, establishing a defensive line behind the Adda River. The critical crossing point was the wooden bridge of Lodi. The Austrian rearguard heavily fortified the opposite bank, zeroing in their artillery on the narrow bridge to prevent any French advance. On May 10, 1796, Bonaparte ordered a direct infantry assault across the bridge. Despite heavy defensive fire, the French column successfully breached the bottleneck and secured the opposite bank. This tactical success forced a general Austrian retreat and gave the French army control over Milan. The capture of Milan marked a major turning point in the campaign. Over the following months, the French forces systematically pushed the Austrians out of northern Italy. Bonaparte did not stop at the Italian border. He pursued the retreating forces through the eastern Alps, advancing within 80 miles of Vienna. Faced with the direct threat to their capital, the Austrian Empire agreed to peace negotiations. In 1797, the Treaty of Campo Formio was signed. It officially redrew the map of Europe, dismantling the Republic of Venice and expanding French territory. The young general returned to Paris as the most influential military figure in France. With continental peace secured on the mainland, France turned its attention toward its final adversary, Great Britain. Recognizing the difficulty of a direct cross-channel invasion, French strategic planning shifted toward a secondary theater. The objective was to disrupt British trade routes to India by launching a military expedition to the Middle East. The next destination on the map was Egypt.